and welcome to Student Voice. I'm Adam Tucker. There was a time when being a radio DJ was one of the coolest jobs you could have. Local FM radio still influences many people's musical tastes, but what does the future hold for FM? We're here today with Don Hixson, Music and Program Director for WAWL.org, Chat State's college radio station. Along with us are students from our Intro to Mass Communication class. Hello, Don.
Hello.
So I'm told by my professor that you really love music.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it seems like you picked the correct career choice for you, which leads me into my first question. What led to your interest in music and your career in radio?
Well, I've always been interested in music, and when I went to high school here in Chattanooga, it was Chattanooga City, and in '72 when I did graduate, I went to Nashville, and I was a bass player, and I kind of backed into playing as a member of a road band for people, they're obscure country people like Red Sovine and Dottie West and people like that. And my hair was down to my bottom just about. Back in the 70s, that was strange, especially for country music. But I loved music, and I always had, and got to play. Bass wasn't real difficult, especially for country music, because it was basically the same three chords all the time, and a lot of things are different. But anyway, after about 10 years, Red died, and I was getting a little tired of being on the road, and I came back to Chattanooga and figured that radio was the closest thing to actually play. Being a session person isn't a real easy way to make a living, and I thought I'd seen a lot of people in bands that weren't doing anything. They were good, but they just weren't getting radio airplay because of who they were, and radio stations pretty much played just certain things. And I thought that if I could get in there and expose people to some of these people, that maybe that would help their careers. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, but still, especially at the college level, you can turn people on to music that they wouldn't ordinarily hear. And I think we've helped, a few people along the way anyway.
Well, that's actually a really beautiful story. I believe Logan has our next question for you.
And I was muted. Sorry about that. Hey, Uncle Don.
Hey.
So where all have you worked locally with regards to this career path?
When I started, I was doing mornings and evenings at the Wall, and then I got a job at US 101. And that was the first commercial job that I ever had. And back in those days, most people that started worked overnights and weekends and things like that. And I worked there for close to a year, and then got another job at it was a station that's not around anymore called Lightness 105. And I just kind of worked when I wasn't working at the other place. So I was pretty much working all the time because I was working at the Wall and US 101. And I had to use different names, and that's where I started these other names, but we'll talk about that later. But basically, after Lightness 105, most of the people there, when it shut down, people at Sunny 92.3, most of those people went there. Patty Sanders and Skylar McKenzie, a bunch of people like that. And worked at DOD when it was country, and then I was the first program music promotions director. There was a station called 96.5 The Mountain back in the mid 90s. When it started, it had been country for about 40 years. And the people that bought it or owned it bought Sunny, and they were tired of getting beat up by US 101, so they wanted to change the format to what it's called in the trade is AAA, but it's basically kind of a lighter alternative. And it started out pretty good, but I was running from one place to another, and it was killing me. And they brought in a consulting firm in Colorado, and we can talk about that later too. but because uh, when you hire people from other parts of the country to tell you what to play, it kind of takes the localness out of it anyway. Um, and at the time, I was producing a guy named Luther, uh, his show on Sunny, and I told him I'd keep doing that and working out here at the Wall because I'd already been here for a long time, and uh, this is pretty much my passion because I've been there. This year we're celebrating the 40th anniversary. Most of you guys aren't even close to 40. Oh, so, but I mean, it's still a good way to listen to a lot of things that you don't normally get to hear, and that pretty much is it. Right now, a lot of the radio stations are doing things remotely anyway. I mean, people are phoning in newscasts and things like that. They aren't allowing people because of the COVID thing, and so people. That's the thing I do like about radio. It's not what it looks like; it's what it sounds like. So as long as everything sounds, it doesn't really matter. I'm in Ringgold right now, and I can run the station here. I can sit in the living room and listen to it through our Roku on the TV, and it sounds really good. Uh, I can spike in songs and do whatever, but television's a different story. You got to look good too, and obviously, some people look better than others. So
This is true.
So my next question I have for you, Don, is what do you think of the current state of FM radio, and is it still a good career choice for people to get into?
Well, some people may think I'm shooting myself in the foot here, but I couldn't really, in good faith, say, yeah, sure. You know, it's one of those things like playing in a band. You get into it because you love it, not because you think you're going to become a superstar. And radio's pretty much the same way. It's changed an awful lot since I started. Everything pretty much was tape based, and the emphasis was on air presentation and personality and things like that. And now everything's pretty much produced, and a lot of things are pre-recorded, and they do little bits and things like that. And it's become more of a national thing than more of a localized thing. And I think a lot of people really wish it would go back to having some local voices. So I don't really know that I could recommend it wholeheartedly to get into it. First of all, you might want to make enough money to pay off your student loans, which might be hard to start off because you got to prove yourself before you're going to actually make a whole lot of money. I mean, people that start now, let's be realistic. They are going to pay somebody a whole lot of money to push buttons and whatever. They want someone that's going to bring in advertising and things like that. So there you have it. Chris, don't tell anybody I said that.
I believe Genevieve actually has our next question for you.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Uncle Don. So how does someone prep for a career in radio?
Well, first it helps to love music, basically. But then a lot of times you aren't going to get a job in the format that you really love. I mean, at Light Mix, I thought if I heard Kokomo one more time, I was going to scream. And, there are some songs that, just drive you up a wall. But the thing is you have to sound like you're having a good time. And I know when I worked with Patty Sanders a lot, one time I was sitting in the control room with her, and she kind of lowered her head like this, and she came up. It looked like a horror movie or something. She had this eerie smile on her face. And I said, "What are you doing that for?" And she said, "If you smile, you sound like you're smiling." And if you've heard Patty, when she's on the air, she sounds like she's happy and smiling, and it's one of those things that someone passed along to her years ago. But you really have to be willing to start at the bottom and do whatever they ask you. Once you get your foot in the door, whether it's as an intern or whatever, you may do all kinds of things that you think are insane, but they're basically wanting to prove that you're dependable and honest, for one thing, and then you can actually get in and show them what talent you have. But you have to get your foot in the door first.
So what do students typically learn while working at WAWL?
Well, it's like driving a car too. You can read your manual all day and all night, but until you get out there on 153 with all those nuts cutting you off and not giving a signal and whatever, you don't actually get to experience what it's like to drive. And at the wall, you can study the manual and the book and tells you to do this and that. And, the trick is to make it sound like you're just sitting there playing music and having a good old time. And you can only learn that by doing it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. And that pretty much transfers to anywhere you're going to work. Most stations, doesn't matter what kind of music they play. It's still basically the same thing. You're there to try and entertain and inform. And the best way to do it is to do it. So, I know that most of you guys are supposed to do an hour on the air as lab time, I think, which has been kind of difficult with things like they are right now. But still, that's why I try and encourage everyone in the class to get into the production room. You can do a show from the production room and just get that feel of actually doing the show. So the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get, the more comfortable you're going to sound. I've known people that had really great radio voices. This one girl in particular, when she worked at the Mountain, she sounded like somebody had a gun to her back and they were forcing her to say stuff. And it's just because she wasn't relaxed. And the only way you can do that is just to do it. I know that sounds like an oversimplification, but that's really it. And the wall, I've worked at UTC, WUTC too, and a lot of the, not to take anything away from anyone in particular, but the students don't get that, or they used to not get that much of an opportunity to actually push buttons. Most of the people were hired staff, faculty, and things like that. But sometimes it reflects it on the air. But you get on the air and you make your mistakes and just move on, and that's how you learn.
Yeah, I agree. Hands-on experience is really the best way to learn. So I believe Logan actually has our last question for you today.
So, Uncle Don, how did you get the name? How did you get donned the name Uncle Don?
Well, it actually, it started as a joke, because when I started, I'd been playing music for a long time, and I was a little older than most of the people that were in the class, and so I just went with Uncle Don. It sounded better than Grandpa Don, but that was really it. And when I started working at US 101, my real name, Don Hixson. And then when I worked at Light Mix at the same time, I borrowed my boss, the guy that started the station. His name was Bob Riley, so I used Don Riley. And I took that with me to Sunny 92.3. So I was where I was, because you didn't want to get on the air and say the wrong the wrong place. But when you aren't sure whether you're Uncle Don, Don Hixson, or Don Riley, it's a little confusing. But that's really it. I mean, it's no big deal, but it's not like I had my wife call me Uncle Don all the time because character.
Well,
Evidently, because it's still around 40 years later. So,
well, I personally love the nickname. I think it fits you very well. Well, that's it for this episode of Student Voice. For more information about State's college radio station, wawl.org, have a great day.